This is Greg Bafidis, founder and chairman of the Postulist. I'm here at the Georgetown University Law Center on the first full day of Law Firm Evolution, Brave New World or Business as Usual, a special conference being arranged by the Georgetown Law School. I'm very honored today to have as my guest Bruce MacEwen, who is the president of Adam Smith Esquire, one of the preeminent online publications, which covers many of the aspects, both economic and management, in running law firms. Bruce, I want to thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We just finished I would say, unbelievably enlightening seminar in which we covered tremendous amounts of topics all relating to business models and law firm management. But there seemed to be a general tenor of, do we have the right people running these firms, and are we in effect going to be moving more toward a corporate structure?
I think the answer is we're going to be moving more towards a corporate structure. The challenge of managing any of these large firms for the past decade, before the Great Reset, as I like to call it, was very simple. It was do no harm, because revenue was growing at double-digit rates, compound annual growth, profits per partner, high single-digit rates. I mean, this is an industry almost any normal CEO would have killed to be in. It was very simple. All that changed in September 2008, if not earlier, but September 2008 is certainly when people realized that the world had changed. And I worry about firms that are not led by people of vision who understand the world has changed and they need to lead differently.
Do you think law firms will be able to? Do you think there's going to be an element of inertia where they're just not going to make the right decisions as far as people? Or
I don't think the market is going to let them indulge in inertia, and I think we have to think about leadership and management as two distinct things. Management can be taken care of by COOs, CFOs, CIOs, etc. Those people probably ideally do not come from law firm land. They may come from the big consulting companies, they may come from the big accounting companies, they may just come from corporate America. But they need to have the high-end skill sets to manage these complex enterprises. McKinsey has this rule of 5, which I like. The McKinsey theory is that managing a professional services firm per dollar of revenue is 5 times more complex than managing a manufacturing or accounting firm. So Skadden, $2 billion. McKinsey would tell you that the complexity of managing Skadden is the same as managing a $10 billion company. Then, of course, the other key ingredient is leadership. I think those helms need to be occupied by lawyers who have the respect of their partners and their colleagues. And it's there where we're going to see the men get separated from the boys in this environment. This is a disruptive environment.
it seemed to me that the panel today, and obviously we had, I guess, similar views. We had Ralph Baxter, chairman of Orr Carrington, and we had our friend Tom Yanucci in the audience. Tom and they seem to be of the same ilk, meaning they seem to say, oh no, we've got the right management people there. Do you think most of these top 7, top 8, top 10 law firms are there, or do you think that he'll have a lot of homework to do?
I think that there is a nostalgia, for lack of a better word, that if we just hold our breath long enough, it'll be 2006 again, and we'll all be riding this financial services and globalization crest. The people who don't get that, firms, who are the people at the top, don't get that, are going to face serious risk of their partners voting with their feet out the door. And that can be a very perilous place very fast.
But you still believe that the global legal market is still the place to be? I mean,
great place to be. As I said somewhat facetiously in there, but I really mean it, we're not the newspaper industry. Globalization is here to stay. Regulation is not getting simpler. The complexity of cross-border transactions is only growing. And the Anglo-Saxon legal model, the common law, is the model of international commerce. That's not going to change.
Hey, Dan DiPietro, who was there from Citicorp, he had mentioned that there's obviously a keen interest of private equity, which we've seen in Canada and the UK. Do you think that will ever catch fire here in the States?
It has to, in my opinion. You can't stop money at the ocean borders. And here's actually, let me give you a slightly fuller explanation of how I see the dynamic playing out. The Legal Services Act is going to happen in the UK. It's been passed. They just need to implement it. It's going to happen like next year. Private equity's over there already, as we know. Some law firms are going to take the bait. I mean, that's just the way the market works. And the firms that are, the private equity firms that figure out how to successfully invest in law firms will not want to limit themselves to the domestic UK market. It's not the biggest legal market in the world. The US is the biggest legal market in the world. And as I say, you can't stop money at the water's edge. What's going to happen is some of those UK firms with investor capital are going to come over here to New York or Washington or California, start acquiring talent with the war chest that they have from private equity.
Right.
And U.S. managing partners unanimously are going to say one thing: we need a level playing field. And they will be right.
One of the areas that we covered toward the very end of the conference were, and you've kind of gotten into a debate, I would call it a debate about the proper use of metrics. Ralph was mentioning that they were changing the metrics at ORIC. You had mentioned that there are actually different types of things as far as risk indicators, et cetera. Do you think this reflects something where somebody is sitting home in their law firm and saying, oh, I know a better way to do it? Or do you think that these firms are going out and finding experts, bringing in outside sources to say, how do we better manage and measure our people?
Well, I hope it's the latter, because that's what I do for a living. But
Okay.
no, I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix. Certainly, the awareness needs to be first in the firm's internal consciousness. You know, the fact that profits per partner was never such a great metric to begin with, and now we've really kind of exposed it for what it was. That's the first thing firms have to do. Then they have to say, all right, if that's not it, then what is it? And I think that that's where the conversation begins to get interesting.
Okay, we have a readership of over 20,000, and not all of them are going to be as knowledgeable as I am about your company. Could you just give us an overview of what your company does?
Sure. Adam Smith-esque, I founded almost 7 years ago. We have the online publishing arm that you heard about, adamsmithesque.com. Site's free. We also have a management consulting arm, and that's where, by and large, sophisticated firms in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, come to us looking for help with strategy, finance, globalization, compensation challenges, and they really look to get the value, if I may say so, of me. Our position in the market is it's me and a partner.
And your background, just to give
I'm
us
a lawyer by training, Princeton Econ, Stanford Law, practiced at a couple big firms in New York as a securities lawyer, which was great until Sarbanes-Oxley came along, ruined everything. And I was in-house at Morgan Stanley for nearly 10 years. And then during the dot-com boom, I decided that there were maybe more interesting things to do, and ultimately that led to my starting Adam Smith.
Okay. We have dinner tonight with Richard Susskind. Are you expecting any surprises, or?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm expecting surprises because I've known Richard for years, and I think I know what he's going to say. But Richard is a bit of a bomb thrower, and I think that what he is saying, which is that the forces of technology, unbundling, disaggregation, are sort of hollowing out many of the roles traditionally played by lawyers, is true. I think the question is how big, how fast.
Okay, I'm asking you because we're interviewing him tomorrow. I just want to be prepared.
Okay. You will have an enjoyable interview.
Great. Bruce, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for asking.